right, everyone.
All right, here we go.
As we discussed in the intro,
Drink your goat's blood. Get ready.
we lured Bobby out of his cave with fresh death metal.
I smelt it.
Some of it is very fresh too.
death.
So, if you've been listening for a while, this is the second installment of the death metal series. We're going to be reviewing 3 albums today, and I'm going to kick it over to Bobby to get us started on this segment.
All right. Well, first, a little intro on the genre. Death metal. One of the most notorious subgroups of metal. Coming at you with big, meaty caveman grooves mixed with blisteringly fast and intricate riffs stacked with 6 solos for your face-melting pleasure. The guitars are usually down-tuned and heaped with distortion, but sadly the bass is often buried, but when you do hear it, it's usually nice and dirty tone. The drums offer up the obligatory blast beat mania, mixed with syncopated percussive awesomeness, all of which is delivered with precision and intensity. And there's 2 things that set this brand of metal apart from other styles. First is the lyrical content. Obviously a heavy focus on death, killing, and the afterlife. Some bands lean into the blasphemous, while others have an odd fascination with gore and laid out in a particularly disgusting detail. Also, war and injustice are common themes. No happy shit going on here. The second thing that sets death metal apart is the presentation of these lyrics, the infamous Cookie Monster, the vocals. Every singer is trying to invoke some demonic monstrosity from deep within. Angry guttural roars unleashing evil upon the masses. Even the ladies, singers for bands like Freedom of Fear and Arch Enemy, for example. Now, besides a deep baritone like L.G. Petrov from Entombed and Firespawn would occasionally implement, if you've heard a band with clean vocals in the death metal scene, they probably fucking suck. So, death metalers have an absolute no desire to be on the radio, and therefore their talent is often overlooked, but the level of musicianship can be quite sophisticated and strangely beautiful, and there's no denying the passion and dedication to the art. So that is why today, we're going to be discussing some motherfucking death metal.
Nice. Let's go.
So, we got the 3 albums we're going to go over. I'm going to start with a classic, and then you guys got some new stuff. So, I don't know how you talk about death metal without mentioning this band. Death Metal. 4th album by them, Human. This was released in October of 1991. 8 songs, 34.5 minutes. An excellent example of Floridian death metal. Recorded at Morrisound out in Tampa, which has cranked out so many records from legendary death metal bands, including Cannibal Corpse, Deicide, Morbid Angel, Obituary, and Sepultura, to name a few.
It's like everybody that mattered.
Fucking A. Well known for the ever-changing lineup. On this record, we have, of course, Chuck Schuldiner on the guitars and vocals. Steve DiGiorgio on the bass is his first album. And we got Paul Masvidal on guitars and Sean Reiner on the drums, both of which are from Cynic. And they help with this flavor of this album as it leans heavily into the more technical progressive style. Now, Scream Bloody Gore is arguably one of the first death metal records ever and is an absolute classic, but when I think of the band, this is the sound that comes to mind, so let's get into it. The opening track, Flattening of Emotions. Starts with a nice fade-in, tribal drums right off the get. You know, I love that shit. Guitar tone is on point, dropping in with some nice tasty riffing. Vocals have improved here. Chuck's voice is seasoned, and I've always said it takes a couple albums to get that the gutturals at peak performance. I also like where he's at on the song, singing more on the back of the riff rather than barking along in lockstep. What'd you guys think of the opening of Death? Are you guys familiar with Death?
This is probably the first death album I've listened to front to back.
Hey, all right.
For no real reason, just
All right. We're kind of old.
yeah. There's a really cool drum intro leading into the guitar coming in, and complete chaos ensues after that guitar comes in. The drum intro kind of almost gave you a false sense of calm at the beginning. Surprisingly clean solo with the drum and bass continuing their relentlessness throughout. I love the opener. I thought it was great way to open the album.
Yeah, so a couple of things, you mentioned right off the jump, the Cookie Monster vocals.
Yeah.
These aren't your standard Cookie Monster vocals. You mentioned the improvement. This is very good death metal vocals. Like this is above average for what you normally get in this genre. So I think that's worth mentioning first and foremost. The other thing is, these guys know, but the listeners don't know. I've had a shitty fucking week.
All
And
right.
man, if this wasn't the most perfect album to listen to
Mm.
this week, like talk about having great homework for the podcast. This is exactly what I needed. Brutal, fast, angry, incredible guitar work.
Yep.
I can't wait. Like, let's get the rest of this album going.
Fuck
Yeah.
yeah. Up next, we got Suicide Machine. We get the first taste of what Steve can do on the bass. Now, Terry Butler is the man. He's your go-to for Floridian death metal bass. He was in Massacre, 6 Feet Under. He's in Obituary and Inhuman Condition. He was on the album before this one, Spiritual Healing, which is also fucking awesome. But Steve DiGiorgio, he's fucking pretty badass. His tone is killer. Got a little bit of the clank going on, but he's not in competition with the drums, and he's got a good bottom end, and it's fucking, probably got a nice ass too. Plus he's got enough bite on his tone that it cuts through and it's not buried by the guitars, and he's showing off some cool jazz-like licks here. Really cool stuff. What do you think of that track, Jason? I know you like when he's got the cool bass stuff.
Yeah, I mean, give me a second. I'm trying to get the images of his nice ass
He's
out
got a
of my
nice bottom end. You know what I mean?
No, absolutely. He does have a nice bottom end. Love the opening riff to this song. Little hints of groove throughout this one as well. Very evident when you listen to a song like this. Like, you wouldn't have a band like Lamb of God without this band.
Yeah, for sure. There's faster tempo, aggressive riffing to start the song, and then it completely changes up, and there's actually like numerous tempo changes throughout.
Mm-hmm.
The guitar work here is way more than I was expecting from this album. There's a lot of intricate riffing going on. I like this one a lot too.
Yeah, man. This is kind of the beginnings of progressive technical death metal.
Yeah.
Pardon me. Next, we got Together as One. This song is about the fucked up existence of being Siamese twins, and that's a pretty fucking gnarly topic. The next song, Secret Face, this is one of my fucking favorites, man. Killer riffs, and it's got a little bit of some flange going on. Now, besides distortion, Death doesn't really implement a lot of effects, so when they do, that shit stands out, man. You notice that shit?
Yeah, it's completely in your face for the first 30 seconds, and then they just kind of slam on the brakes, again, changing the tempo. They let it all breathe. It becomes almost like a march leading into the solo where the drums and bass eventually hit the gas again. They change back and forth at that tempo every like 30 to 60 seconds throughout this song. Like they're constantly changing it up, man. It keeps it all interesting, and I like it a lot.
Oh, yeah, you got the fucking OCD shit, or the ADHD,
like Archspire.
Yeah, I forgot. That's probably what
Right
I
up
do
your
like that.
alley,
Yeah.
yeah.
What do you think?
This is the groundwork of Archspire if you really think about it.
Just to touch on Chuck's guitar tone, like, it's hard to put into words, to describe it, but it somehow packs the perfect amount of punch. Like, one of the things that we see a lot in newer death metal, especially, is everybody's trying to tune super low to where you can almost barely make out the notes. And that's not the case here. Like,
This is pretty crispy.
It's super crisp, but it's really beefy at the same time. Like, they just struck this perfect balance here where it's one of the heaviest fucking things that you ever heard, but it's crisp and it's clean and it's perfect.
So
I don't know how else to describe it.
Kind of Scandi, isn't it? That Scandi influence
I mean,
came
it's
from
Floridian.
this. But you
It's
know what I mean.
Floridian.
But
It started here.
This is why we were the
Yes,
capital
exactly.
of fucking death metal.
Exactly.
Up next, we got Lack of Comprehension. This one has the music video. It's not really crazy. It's just them jamming at a fucking show, but still, if you like to check that out. Speaking of the fucking guitar work, Chuck has these fucking really tasteful solos that focus more on adding harmony to the song than the obnoxious speed picking or unnecessary stunt noodling. He's a brilliant fucking songwriter, and you can hear his influence in bands like Announce the Apocalypse and Revocation, where it's well thought out. Every little fucking sound they're making, from the ping on the goddamn ride on the drums, what he's doing with the vocals, they're not just shitting out. Like, it's well thought out, man. It's fucking beautiful.
Yeah, there's a reason why they made a music video and this is a single. This is a standout track on the album for sure.
Announce the Apocalypse, who also recorded their last album at Morrisound.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I want to say this was the same year that Arise came out, and it's got a lot of that fucking Arise era Sepultura fucking flavors going on with the sound. Fucking beautiful stuff. See Through Your Dreams is next. Is another of my faves. Killer thrashy stuff all of a sudden. Some Mustaine-like arrangements, and the vocals do a cool fade out into the next song. Cosmic Sea, which is a cool instrumental with some Iron Maiden vibes. It's kind of got that Egyptian, Middle Eastern sound with some trippy sci-fi noises. And then we get to Vacant Planets. Starts with some more flange and then gets into a sick groove with some killer fucking stops. And bitches are fucking clean. Sweet ass solos, cool bass licks. Just one last demonstration of technique, precision, and passion to close it out. Great fucking song. One of the best on the album. What do you guys think of Death Human?
I mean, those last 3 tracks, man. Was it See Through Dreams? The solo section is something you definitely have to check out. The way it fades into Cosmic Sea is really clean. It's very atmospheric. They had a really big feel to that track. At times, it started to remind me of like a more metal Zelda, which I didn't expect out of this album for whatever reason. Then it just went way out there with spacey electronic noises going around through the headset or through the earphones. It just kept getting crazier and crazier. I really loved it. It's a really cool song. Vacant Planets is back in your face, very technical, brutally a song just to close it out, man. It's a great 3 songs at the end.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's awesome that you mentioned this because the Dave Mustaine comparisons.
Who's Dave Mustaine?
I felt them all throughout this album.
I've never heard of him.
There were so many times where I was like, yeah, I mean, the root of death metal comes from thrash initially, and it's just taking it to another extreme.
Well, this is early 90s. A lot of bands at the time were kind of doing the Metallica thrash, where this was more of the Megadeth.
Was this 91, 92?
91.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, it's
that
the
was
same
the bigger
thing.
influence, but Mustaine, man, he knows what's up.
Yeah, and Chuck is a riff master just like that. I mean, there's so much going on here. You mentioned the Archspire thing where it's just, there's times where it's like, God damn, like you could build a whole song off of that one little part that he did here.
Off of this 30 seconds over here, yeah.
Right. It's incredible.
Yeah.
And that's just like one little throwaway part of the song. Like, dude was a genius.
Yeah.
Cosmic Sea, seriously, one of the best instrumental tracks I've ever heard from any band.
It's great.
It blew me away. Ended up being one of my favorite tracks on the whole album.
I think it's one of the better spots for an instrumental is the second to last.
Right at the end.
You know what I mean? Kind of get that little break, and then you go into your final fucking closer.
It was almost unexpected there because it's, exactly like most people put it right in the center or they close out the album with it. It kind of caught me off guard, and it was like right what I needed at that moment.
Yeah.
Great track. Vacant Planets to close it out, just straight brutality, the way they brought it in. Throughout this entire album, though, just the guitar work is absolutely captivating. Again, like sometimes you think death metal and you think just caveman, just,
Cookie
beat
Monster.
the shit out of each other. Like, there's a lot more going on here than that.
For sure.
This is very technical, artistic. Like this is a statement from this band.
Yeah.
So I'm much like Justin. Haven't heard a lot of Death's catalog throughout my life.
Back or forward is going to get good.
And maybe, it's our age. I don't know. Maybe just our particular journey into metal. I know I started with new metal and I've kind of worked my way into more extreme
when did
things.
you get into death metal?
I mean, only recently in the last decade that I really started getting into
this is the shit
metal.
I grew up with.
See, for me, I think we talked about it before on one of the shows too. Scandi metal led me to death metal,
right?
Through Soil Working in Flames.
That was pretty much my journey as well.
Went further down, so
now I'm like, and
I just didn't make it to this band, and I'm glad we did this week.
Right? It's funny because it's sort of the blueprint, and we went backwards and made our way here, but.
All
to
these
say
years later,
that I was impressed with this album would be an understatement. To me, Death's Human is a 5.5 out of 6.
Nice.
Okay.
Yeah, as I mentioned, this is my first experience listening to an entire Death album for whatever reason. The vocals are to be what's expected from early 90s death metal, and that's pretty limited in the range, but they become another instrument, which works in this instance. It's full of relentless, brutal drums, aggressive riffing in both the bass and lead. There's also killer solos. It's almost every track. There's constant tempo changes throughout, which keeps it very interesting. As I said in the beginning, it's just complete chaos, but this album as it went on, I seen it more as controlled chaos. They knew exactly what the fuck they were doing. This is way more technical than I ever expected. The added experimentation on the back half with the electronic zone out stuff was unexpected, and I really dug it. Death's Human is a very impressive 5 out of 6 for me.
Nice. Now, if you guys do go check out other albums, they have the notorious lineup changes. So every album's going to have a little bit different sound. But they got like James Murphy on guitar, the fucking Atomic Clock Gene Hoglan on drums.
Oh, nice.
I mean, this shit's worth fucking checking out.
Hell yeah.
Now,
I mean,
I've said many times it is easy to please the ignorant. And I completely understand that this is not exactly an easy listen for the masses. There's not really any catchy hooks or any sing-along ding-dong parts. This is all exquisite musicianship. If I was a professor teaching music, this would be mandatory listening. This album is an absolute masterclass in progressive technical death metal. If this came out, I don't know, 10, maybe 15 years ago, I think it would have done pretty well. But if it came out today, I think it would do outstanding. Much like all the stoner rock bands are trying to recapture the 70s vibe, all the death metalers are trying to do the whole 90s vibe. And shit like Creeping Death, Body Farm, Leper Colony are all trying to capture that sound. Sadly, Chuck Schuldiner and old Sean Reiner are no longer with us, but their legacy lives on with death. And that's kind of fucking cool. So if you're uninitiated or you haven't gave it a spin in a while, go listen to one of the best in the fucking genre, Death, and their album Human. 6 upside down pentagrams from me.
6.
It's a great listen.
It was fucking, I'm glad y'all liked it.
Hell yeah. Appreciate you recommending that one for sure.
Now,
I've
again,
been meaning to
go,
listen to and just hadn't. So I
if you go
glad
check
I
out the other albums, the earlier stuff, the vocals aren't as, like I said, it takes a few albums to get that seasoned fucking voice. But other than that, it's always fucking good stuff.
5, 5.5, and 6. You gotta
Yeah.
love it. You gotta love it.
Fucking death, man. They ain't fucking around.
That's a 5.5 average.
That's
if
a
you keep
great
track.
goddamn album. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Spiritual Healing's a great one.
So-
Leprosy, fucking catalog's amazing.
Loved it.
Good.